Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Naveen Philip, CEO of Popular Mega Motors, a family-owned automobile dealership business based in Kerala. Naveen is a graduate of Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar, and has been into automobile industry since last 23 years. Hi Naveen, welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Uh, Glad to be here.
Naveen, would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Naveen here, as Priya said, finished my engineering, worked for a year, then went for my MBA, passed out in 94 from Exam Bhubaneswar, campus selected into Godrej and Boys, worked there for 4 years, 94 to 98. Um, the last held position was head of marketing for one division of Godrej. And then was asked to come back into the family business because a new division was being started. So came back in 98 and kicked off the new division. Started with 2 employees in the new division. Currently we are at 1,400 employees. So it's been a decent journey. And at the same time, we been able to grow the family business also from close to about 700 employees to now we have about close to 9,000 employees.
Uh,
Spread across South India. We are into automobile dealerships across South India under the brand name of Popular. But in different states, we have different names given the nuances of the state, etc. I'm the third generation in the family business. Struggles, continue to have struggles, but it's been a good journey overall.
okay. Naveen, can you tell us in detail about the business? What is the? I think you already mentioned the size of the operations, but what kind of vehicles you deal with, and in detail.
So, yeah, so basically, we started off as spare parts dealers or spare parts way back in 1938 when my grandfather started the business. Current business that we have are basically into automobile dealerships. We handle Maruti. We are one of the largest dealers across India. We handle Tata commercial vehicles, again, one of the largest dealers across India. Honda cars. Then we have Jaguar Land Rover. All these we are in the top three or top four pan India, and we have Bharat Benz trucks, same in the top three across India, and we also do spare parts distribution. Other offshoots of the business, we have a training institute which is pretty large in Kerala, and we also sort of angel invest in new businesses. Doesn't have to be related to automobile, but we have automobile related investments also. We started off a truck hire company. We sold that off to Tata Motors, and we have a few other businesses. That's about
it. Okay. Naveen, I have a very interesting question for you. So not very long ago, we hosted another entrepreneur who is a sixth generation family owned business entrepreneur. And you also mentioned that you are a third generation entrepreneur in your family. So would like to understand what is the difference between an entrepreneur who is taking forward a family's legacy versus an entrepreneur who is starting from scratch.
I think in terms of starting a business, both would be approximately the same because most families give you the freedom to choose a business to kick off. Some families drag you into the businesses that they're already in. As far as a first generation entrepreneur, you can just about choose any business. The landscape is open for you. In family business, sometimes it's restrictive. That's the one main difference. Okay. Two is in terms of decision making. So in your family business, though you might be the entrepreneur, the decisions have to be more or less unanimous. So you have to take everybody in the family along in terms of your business journey. And the first generation entrepreneurial business, that's not the case. You are your boss. You take your decisions. You want to pivot your business midway through it, 10 days of it, whatever it is. That's your call. If you have the finances, you go ahead and take those calls. In family business, unfortunately, that doesn't work. Plus, there are a whole lot of gray areas which you have to tread very carefully. You shouldn't upset the elders, you shouldn't upset your peers.
Hmm.
And the huge responsibility lies on you that for me, it was already 60 years that the family was running the business. And when I come and take on new agencies or new thing and investing money, there's always a risk factor that I shouldn't lose the family wealth. I'm only a transient person in this. I'm taking care of wealth for
Hmm.
the next generation.
Okay.
And if I take decisions that sort of go against that, then will always be the black sheep of the family. There will always be questions raised as to is he the one who destroyed the family wealth and is he the one who destroyed the family business? So there's a lot of like a Damocles sword lying on you over
Hmm.
your head. Whereas in your first generation entrepreneurial thing, it's just you taking the shot. And if the business fails, so be it. You kick off another one.
Okay. Naveen, would like to take this debate to a deeper level. I think many of our viewers are also also people who belong to a family that already has a business, and their family expects them to take over the business someday. So that is why I'd like to take this discussion a bit deeper. So, would like to know what happens when one generation passes on the business responsibilities to the next generation. I strongly believe that there are multiple choices at hand when it comes to succession. How does it, what is the process that happens in a family that owns business to choose the successor of the business?
So it's not very easy choosing the successor of the business. So if I take my example, my grandfather had two boys. None of the ladies were allowed into the business at that point of time. He also had another brother's son in the business or another brother in the business. Splits have happened. When I came into the business, I am the daughter's son, which is not heard of in the Christian tradition in Kerala.
Mm,
It's only the patriarchal side that gets into the business. But we changed rules in between, stating that whoever does well, whoever's proved their worth outside of the family business, can be invited into the business. Today we have even stranger rules. Not, I wouldn't say stranger rules, but we have written out a family constitution. We have taken the help of the head of family business in ISB,
mm,
Professor Kaval Ramchandran, and we used uh, KPMG to run to actually frame out a family constitution.
mm,
And as per that, actually none of the next generation, that's not only my kids, even my cousins, cannot come into the family business directly. So
okay.
they have to go ahead and prove themselves either as an entrepreneur, which the family would actually fund,
Mm,
or as a corporate person, and then show that over 5 years or 10 years, they've been able to rise within the corporate. And they cannot get into the business that the family is already in. They have to start something else.
mm,
Uh, so there is no, and we are trying to professionalize the whole thing. So we have already taken a CEO. He's from IIM Cal and IIT Kharagpur. Uh, Even if a new family member comes into the business, he or she has to report into this person.
mm,
So the succession was initially was not very clear. So even today, while I run the family business, uh, both my aunts who are about 65 have a say in the board.
okay.
So the board decision, and we have an independent board. So we have taken the former CEO of Tanish onto the board, and the
Mm,
current head of Kantar, a lady called Preeti, she's also on the board. And Jacob Kurian is the former head of C. And we
mm,
have taken private equity in, so they have a board member. So it's become a very professional board, and we might not have a family person as a successor.
okay.
So that's one difference. Two is that even if the family person has to become a successor, he or she has to prove their mettle before coming in. Earlier, it was the eldest person takes over the business.
Mm,
We have changed that because we have realized that the eldest person might not be the most capable person to run the business.
mm,
So we have made some formats, we have written out our constitution, There is a vetting of businesses that are being started. It has to pass through a private equity panel, which has two independent people and the family members sitting in terms of the business that you start. So it's become a little more complicated process, but I think it gives weightage to meritocracy rather than succession by age or chronologically or whatever that is.
Mm.
Um, we've got a case study going on in IMA on the basis of this about our family and the businesses that we run. I would be happy to share that in the forum later.
Naveen, I believe you have very successfully implemented a plan for the family-owned business, but there are many mid-sized family-owned business that do not have the bandwidth to implement such a change. So, in a very very top level, what would be your suggestions they should implement in place? For example, there is a 50-year-old man who is planning for succession, and he has three sons and one daughter maybe. How does he choose the successor? That is number one. Also, how does he deal with the favoritism that happens in family? For example, the mother loves the elder son, and their sisters and brothers, grandfathers, everybody has a say, and everybody not necessarily understand the business fully. So how do you suggest these kind of families take this forward?
So each family goes their own journey. I mean, the initial stage of journey is one man making a decision or two people making a decision, and then it goes on to the next generation where it becomes far more wide. It is not very easy to give a formula for each family to succeed. It depends on the nuances of that family. But I would really suggest that one thing that has helped our family over the last 80 years is that we've always used independent not I wouldn't say an independent board per se, but we have always had an independent set of advisors, which are not connected to the family. So you can't get your close family friend and say that you be an advisor to us, which means he'll also have his role, he or she will have his role in trying to influence family members. But we always had an independent set of advisors which were completely outside of the family business, completely unconnected with the family. And that I think has helped in terms of creating a sense of professionalism within the family. And I would suggest that to every family. Either take a a coach, or you take an independent board, or you get just an advisory board, whatever you can, and with people who are successful either within the same society or outside of that society. If you have any contacts, bring them on. Your bankers will be able to help, which is a big source of thing, and they'll be able to judge who should lead the family business to some extent because they know who's been proving their worth, and when they have dialogues with the family members, they can understand who's doing a better role. So I think, and every member of the family has a responsibility. So you have to decide whether you want to run the family business though you're not capable of it, or you want to enjoy the wealth of the family business which somebody else who's more capable than you can create by taking the company forward. So even if I'm the eldest and I believe that my younger brother is far more capable in running the business,
Hmm.
play a smaller role, play a more, what do you call, an elderly role, give the role to the younger person to run the family business. You're still a stakeholder. So
Okay.
it's easier to ensure that the family wealth is present.
Okay. Naveen, I have some questions around the automobile industry as well. Since you have been into the industry for last 20 plus years, would like to know how do you forecast the foreseeable future? I think COVID has disrupted a lot of things in this industry. So, uh, what do you see in the foreseeable future? How Indian automobile industry is will be impacted?
So I think I think whole lot of industries have been affected. The automobile industry also. So if I look at, just to give you a brief numbers in terms of so quarter one of last year, we sold about 2,400 Tata trucks, and we sold having said that, I think the way we restructured our business. Can you hear me, Priya?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. The way we restructured our business in the past 3 months has been huge in terms of number of the sort of cost cuts that we've done, the crunching of things that we've done, um, the way we have digitalized a lot part of our business, got bots into a large area of our business, etc. So we've been able to cut our costs by 25 to 30% in these 3 months. Uh, Going forward, nobody can predict what the future looks like.
Hmm.
But we definitely see that the servicing part of the automobile industry is going to remain. Sales would probably transform itself into a more digitized format, and we are gearing up for that. Uh, for the growth in India to come back, I think one thing good for India is that we have a large population, and hence the passenger car and the two-wheeler growth will always be there. Commercial vehicle will probably take a much longer time. So I'm thinking that it will take probably another 12 to 18 months. Uh, but if India as a country needs to grow with a GDP of 5 to 7% annually, uh, then I'm thinking that next year, if the COVID vaccine everything comes out, next year would be a bumper year for most industries,
Hmm.
including automobile industry.
I think that that is a very interesting perspective. Uh, Now coming back to our usual course of questions, would like to start by asking you, when did you think of becoming an entrepreneur? In your case, when did you think of joining your family business?
No, I didn't think. I had no intention to come back into the family business. I was very comfortable with the role that I had in Godrej. And even now, when I look back, sometimes I do have regrets of leaving that job. I think it taught me a lot. But grandfather said way back, I think in '97, he started putting pressure to the extent that he started writing, making my aunts write letters to my boss in Godrej, stating that he needs to be relieved because I was refusing to resign. But yeah, at some point of time, I think '98 early, I took the decision to come back. Um, and since my parents were also getting aged, I thought it might be a wise call to come back and see what I can do. No regrets are post that.
Okay. Um, what was your first day into the job of CEO, or initially whatever role you played? How was your first day?
Terrible. Because it's family business, and my grandfather had independently taken the decision to bring me back, though he had told my aunts that at some point of time he would come back and they need to accommodate, etc. The family was going through a rough patch at that point of time in terms of business.
Hmm.
Our spare parts business had started declining. I came back in '98. It was one of the worst years of automobile at that time. Tata Motors, I think, threw up a loss of 10,000 crores in '98 or '99, and we had just taken the Tata Motors dealership.
Hmm.
Uh, Somebody was against that decision, somebody was for the decision, and I joined at the time when this debate was raging. The family was going through a split. One of the youngsters was planning to move out of the business. So the first day, actually, everybody ignored me. I mean, I was just floating around the office without anything to do, not knowing what direction, not knowing what my role is. It was chaos. So if you're an employee, you have a role. If you're
Hmm.
part of the family, there's no role defined.
Okay.
The role that was given to me is that at some point of time, you'll have to take care of the Tata Motors dealership. But the Tata Motors dealership had just kicked off. We were selling one vehicle a month.
Hmm.
Uh, there were just me and one more person as employees. We had two chairs outside in the room, and I was said that now you go ahead with the business. So, unfortunately, there is no induction manual for family businesses. There's no, which is something that needs to be done, which we're doing now. But most family businesses just say, okay, you join the business and you kick off. So I would say that not only the first day, I think the first 1 year was terrible.
Okay. Naveen, I have also been an employee of a family-owned business, and, and what I have seen is when the transition happens, a newcomer comes and takes over. What happens is he eventually builds a team of his own inside the company, and slowly that team grows with the person, and they become the head of different departments eventually, as the person becomes CEO or the top level guy. So Navin, would like to ask you, when you recruit someone into your team, or what you call as your core team, uh, the people who interact with you directly and vice versa, how do you choose those people? What is the kind of qualities you look in them?
So one thing was very clear that the people that were supposed to work closely to me were people who were willing to do anything in terms of, there was no job profile. So the core team, 3 or 4 people that I nurtured along the way, had no job profile. So if that person has to do sales one day, get into service the next day, uh, all that has to be done. They
Hmm.
were all given the feeling or given the fact that all 4 or 5 of them that were there at that point of time over the years, over the next 2 years, were
Hmm.
entrepreneurs along with me.
Hmm.
So they had a sort of not a physical stake in the company, but they shared in the profits from day one. So, so they had to do any work. They had to drive the business themselves. So it was not that I give a command and they'll do it. So that way, I think it helped a lot. And out of those 5, 3 are still with me. They run large part of the business, and I'm happy with it. Um, they're now MBAs. They are BCom 40%, 45%ers, but have an attitude that would put any educated person to shame. And I think that's more important. I would ask most of the people who watch the video to read a book called Maverick by Ricardo Semler,
Okay.
um, which is he runs a company in Brazil, and there are no designations.
Hmm.
So same with the 3 4 people that worked with me. I said, if you want a designation, you can choose the designation. I'm not bothered. So you
Hmm.
want to call yourself manager, you want to call yourself GM, vice president, president, CEO, that's yours to call. But one thing to remember is that you know the responsibility that you have, and the outside person should value you by what you are, not by your designation. So if you say you're a CEO and you're behaving like a
Hmm.
manager, there's a there's a huge difference. So
Hmm.
you decide, and over the years, they've decided the designations. Uh, uh, they decide when they should get promoted to the next designation, and I've left it to them.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Now, I would like to know, Navin, what is your vision with Popular Mega Motors and other ventures all you are building as well?
Yeah, so Popular Megaphone is just one division. So for LinkedIn profiles, it's easier to put one name of one company and put it as
Hmm.
CEO. But our entire set of automobile dealerships. So our journey, a couple of years ago, 2016 to be precise, we decided to take private equity money into dealerships. And the idea is to grow the dealership to a level where we can list it in the stock exchange.
Hmm.
We had got ready with the IPO last year, but unfortunately, the events that suddenly the economy went for a toss, the automobile industry went down, so we couldn't actually come out with the IPO. But at some point of time, over the next 2 or 3 years, we would like to do an IPO and grow this business to a much larger entity than what we are in today.
Hmm.
Uh, and hope to be the first. And there were smaller companies that listed earlier, but hope to be the largest listed automobile dealership this side of the world.
Okay. Naveen, what are the challenges you faced along the way while growing this organization and also building the other ventures you have?
So I think we'll have to split the challenges. One is business challenges, which any business faces. There are ups and downs. Money sometimes is in shortage. banks are after you, all that. So that I think every entrepreneur goes through those challenges. There's no two ways about it. You will have to change the business style. You will have to close down offices, open up new different offices. You have to recruit, sack people, all that. So that journey, I don't think is going to be very different for any entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So that's a journey that even we have gone through. Businesses have collapsed, businesses have taken off, all that. You have challenges with the partners that you have in terms of the OEM partners. You have challenges with bankers, government, all that. So that's one part of the challenge, uh, which is probably tough to handle, but I think every entrepreneur will find solutions for it very fast. The other set of challenges is your family challenges. Somebody pulling you back, somebody pushing you forward, politics within the family, uh, to take along every member of the family, at least 80% of the members, through the journey, convincing them. So even if you think that the business idea is good, you need to convince them of the business idea. Each member of the family has got a different risk profile.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, so if you're talking about very high risk business, then there is a lot of pushback from a certain set of family members. Some of them would like to look at the business as a fixed deposit,
Hmm.
which will generate 8% returns for them. Some of them would like to look at it as angel investors and wants 300% returns. So carrying that family along, so one is carrying the family along through the business journey, but at the same time you're related to them and you need to ensure that the family also remains together. Even if you need to split the businesses, the family needs to remain together because you've grown up together. That
Hmm.
is a much bigger challenge, and those challenges, some have failed, some one has rode through and been successful. So those in family business, I would say that money is important, your journey is important, but it's also important to take most of your family members along through that journey.
Okay. Naveen, when it comes to a family business, uh, the rewards the business gets is divided equally among the stakeholders. But when it comes to responsibilities and doing the job, I think the leader has to do the most of the jobs. What motivates the a leader to take such a tough job when he knows that the benefits will be distributed equally?
So I think, thankfully, we come from, though we are businessmen, uh, my grandfather was one of the first participants or members of the Communist Party of Kerala, I mean, India,
Hmm.
CPIM. And he also hosted the first labor union as such.
Okay.
So we came with the philosophy that there'll be some people who are far more capable than others.
Hmm.
But if you want to go through the long distance or a marathon or a walk, you need
Hmm.
to carry a few people along, even if they're less capable.
Hmm.
And just because you were born with a better set of brains or better set of risk-taking profile, uh, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't share your uh, what do you call your uh, wealth or your earnings, etc. Uh, that's one part of family business which I respect. That
Hmm.
I think that whoever uh, heads it because the family themselves have put in all the wealth in.
Okay.
Okay, so you might grow the wealth to some extent. So you might get a bonus that is slightly higher, but the sharing of wealth I think should be equal.
Okay. Naveen, we are almost up with time, and I just have two or three questions left. Hope we can exceed by 5 minutes. So my next question is, who is your role model when it comes to entrepreneurship?
I think my grandfather. And while I did my engineering, I had the opportunity to stay with him for 4 years. Absolutely down to earth. We've got a book written about him by one of the authors here. Um, I mean, he started the business with 0 rupees, grew it into a multi-crore business, but never spent anything for himself. It was for the family in general. Led a very simple life, even to the very last age, and his wish was that he should die while in office or while walking to office or coming back from office, and died at the age of 93, achieving that also. So I think that's my role model.
How do you compare entrepreneurship with a full-time job?
Full-time job, most of the time you can decide to switch off. In entrepreneurship, it's full-time, means it's 24/7. In the initial stages of it, I would get a call saying that there's an issue in the factory, there's a fire here, there's that. It could be anything. I mean, an employee died. It could range from anything. I mean, just from a water leak to something more complex. But at the end of it, you are the boss. You have to take the decision. You have to be there when there is a crisis. You have to be there to celebrate. As an employee, since I've worked in Godrej, I know that there are weekends that I've completely switched off. I mean, I've taken off not knowing, and at that time there was no cell phones also. There's no question of anybody contacting you.
Hmm.
Uh, as an entrepreneur, I don't think you have that liberty,
Okay.
and you'll never have it.
Okay. My last question to you: How do you suggest our audience to start their journey as entrepreneurs?
So two ways. I mean, one is if you're brimming with ideas through your school and college life, just take the plunge whenever you want to, and go ahead with whatever ideas you have. There'll always be detractors, but if you think that you can get it done, go ahead. Uh, to some others, I would think that the journey starts a little later. Uh, Working through a company gives you a lot of perspective as to how employees work, how cohesion is, how do you build teams, etc. And then you choose probably 5 or 7 years down the line, or 10 years down the line, you choose the area that you want to kick off your business in. By the time you've got a fairly decent idea as to how you want to grow your company. So I think both ways it works. It depends on the person's character. I don't think I would have plunged into a business day one of college or even through college. I don't think I have those skill sets. I had to learn those skill sets. But I've seen friends of mine who have just plunged in, even at the during college time, and created large businesses. So each to his own journey, but never give up.
Okay. On that note, would like to close the session. Would like to thank you, Naveen, for taking out time and joining this call. And it was a great honor to host you at ELI.
Thank you, Priya, and thanks to all listeners, and wishing you all the best in your own entrepreneurial journeys. Thank you.
Viewers, you can follow and connect with Naveen on LinkedIn by typing Naveen Philip. Also, do visit their website by typing populartata.com. So, whom do you want to have here at ELI for next episode? Do let me know in comments below. We'll be back. Stay tuned to ELI.